In the red soil of the top end, a new industry is emerging: cotton. On tonight's Four Corners, Angus Grigg examines the conflicts of interest that some say will lead to the destruction of some of the Northern Territory's most famous tourism destinations.
They are the lifeblood of the Northern Territory. The big rivers, wild and free-flowing. Fed by pristine springs and a network of ancient groundwater.
Look at this place. It's deadly fishing, swimming. The tourists love it.
Beneath the red dirt lies a vast water resource. And here in the top end, it's free. Developers are circling.
It's absolutely a water grab.
They're fighting for water from the top and down to the desert.
I think it comes back to this political imperative for development. And I hate to say it, perhaps development at any cost.
The red carpet is being rolled out for a new industry: cotton. It's a lucrative crop with a troubled history.
We are not the Murray-Darling Basin.
I think there is a sense that cotton is a dirty word.
Now growers are eyeing off water, but access to it in the NT has been mired in secret deals and cosy relationships.
This created really a dysfunctional arrangement. I had to ask, what hat are you wearing today?
They should negotiate first before they started doing cotton here.
The government is shutting down independent science.
We're really at risk of establishing some kind of fake science war.
Have you been told personally by department officials to keep quiet?
Yes.
And what's at stake goes well beyond politics.
Without those flows, they dry up. Look, it could be catastrophic, absolutely catastrophic.
What is life? Without it, we'll all perish.
And reporter Angus Grigg joins us now in the studio. Angus, the NT government handing out these water licences, of course. To what extent and for what means?
Yeah, look, make no mistake, these are really giant water licences that are being handed out, and they're being given out for free. So, as you saw in that clip there, around Mataranka Springs, Bitter Springs, the Roper River there's been a huge licence given out there, or is sort of in the process of being allocated there, which is 10,000 megalitres per annum. Now, that is just a huge amount of water. It's actually physically difficult to pump that amount of water. And if that licence was given out in the Murray-Darling Basin or sold in the Murray-Darling Basin, it would be worth upwards of $50 million. And so that's a licence that's being a public good, a public asset that is being given out for free. And the sort of disconnect here is that the Northern Territory government keeps saying, and the cotton industry keeps saying, that the industry won't impact on the Territory's water resources and that it's going to be a dryland crop, or a crop that doesn't need irrigation. But what we're increasingly finding is that the industry is moving towards an irrigated model. And that's simply because of economics. You can sort of double your yield, you can see a 5 to 6-fold increase in your profits per hectare from an irrigated crop. And so I guess the difference here, or the issue is that the industry and the government is saying one thing, but the reality is quite different, and that is that an irrigated cotton model is really the future for the industry in the NT.
In terms of this land, Angus, you discovered a lot of it's being grown on pastoral leases. Is there a problem with that?
Yeah, there is. So pastoral leases, as the name suggests, are for the grazing of cattle, basically. And you've also got to remember they are public land, Crown land, that coexists with native title. And so any major land use change, the Indigenous owners or the traditional owners have to be consulted and indeed compensated for that. And so in order to, I guess, get around that or to fudge that, what we're seeing is that people are putting in, or pastoralists are putting in, land clearing applications where they say it's for hay or for sorghum, and then we find out they're growing cotton. They put in water licences for hay or for sorghum, and then we find out actually they're growing cotton. And the reason they're not saying cotton is because it's a massive legal grey area. It's highly questionable whether or not it's legal to actually grow cotton on these pastoral leases. And so we're in this, slightly bizarre situation where the Northern Territory government has encouraged this huge industry to come into the Northern Territory. Tens of millions of dollars have been spent clearing land, building a cotton gin, $70 million for that facility, investment in machinery and new technology. And yet there's a legal grey area over the entire industry. And indeed, we speak to a former head of the Pastoral Land Board, who's a former federal circuit court judge, so someone who knows about the law and knows about this industry. And his view is quite unequivocal that it is illegal to grow cotton on a pastoral lease unless you have these specific permits. And what we found is that these permits, these pastoralists have not applied for these permits. So even the Northern Territory government themselves seem to be turning a blind eye to it or sort of ignoring it. And that, I think, has given the industry confidence that they can push ahead. But were it to be challenged in court, and it's very likely that it will once again be challenged in court, then I think they could have an unfavourable outcome for the cotton industry there.
And Angus, what do scientists and environmentalists have to say about the growth of cotton in the Northern Territory?
Yeah, look, and it's not really cotton per se that is the issue here. So this is not a story, or the issue is not whether or not we should be growing cotton as opposed to other crops. What we're looking at is that you've got to get the settings right for these water licences. So you allocate the water, you have it at a sustainable level, and then farmers can grow whatever they like. And that's how it should work, and that's the market working. The issue here is that scientists, and there's a really large number of very eminent scientists who are concerned that water is being given out at unsustainable levels, and that this is going to have a huge impact on some really iconic things in the Northern Territory. So the Roper River, which many people might know, famous for its barramundi fishing, hugely culturally significant for traditional owners. Now, scientists are saying that if this big water licence that I mentioned before at Larrimah goes ahead, and the other water licences in the area keep extracting at the rates they are, then the Roper River will stop flowing during the dry season. So you have essentially a dead river. They're also saying that the really famous Bitter Springs, which is, just this magic spot, that, the water from them will stop flowing in the dry season. And indeed this, beautiful stand of palm forest that rims these springs, that if a fire has come through, it would burn and this would never recover. So really, really big impacts are being sort of concerns of those impacts are being reported and being voiced, concerns voiced by really a lot of scientists from totally different areas, and looking at this, and they're raising these concerns. But the Northern Territory government just seems to be blind for those concerns and is really ignoring the science and is talking about science being a contested area and just really sort of saying, we don't want to hear this, we don't want to listen to it. And I guess the concern is that if these impacts are felt, then you sort of can't turn it back. They are irrevocable damage is what scientists are saying might happen here.
Angus Grigg, thank you.
No, thanks for having me.
And don't miss that episode of Four Corners tonight at 8:30 on ABC TV and on iView.